Downtown Austin changes all the time, and it can be hard to keep up. But there's a new program that can help. The XOXO Downtown Austin app has curated art tours, business and restaurant listings, events, and you can plan and book your parking spot in advance too. Visit @Downtown Austin on Instagram and look for a link in today's show notes for the XOXO Downtown Austin app. Plus, if you sign up for text alerts today, you could win one of 5 gift cards to spend at downtown businesses. So maybe I'll see y'all out there. Water is wet, the sky is blue, and summer in Austin is hot. But will it be as brutal as last summer? Today on CityCast Austin, we're talking to a local meteorologist about the drought we've been in since 2022, the boost our water supply just got, and why we're not worried about the grid this summer. It's Thursday, June 12th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Avery Tomasco, meteorologist for CBS Austin News. What is up, Avery? Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. A lot has been going on lately. It is an honor to be back with you and getting you the lowdown on the craziness that is Texas weather lately.
So we read recently that we're supposed to be having a hotter, and this is in quotation marks, hotter than normal June. And I feel like that happens every year. Do you think we need to adjust what we consider normal? Because at this point, what is normal?
First, let's talk about normal. Normal, it's revised every decade. So for right now, the normal is based off of 1990 to 2020, give or take. So 30 years of data. That's what's normal. But to your point, yeah, it feels like it's getting hotter so fast that even the last 30 years, most recently of what Austin has experienced, doesn't feel like it should apply. Especially the last couple of summers, man, have they been brutal. I want to say 2023 was it probably could have been outright our hottest summer ever, but only by a technicality did we miss out on that. We had a whole lot more extreme hot days in there. Our biggest enemy right now, and the mosquitoes love it. The mosquitoes love what's going on, is the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it the Gulf of the bathtub because it is running a fever.
Oh, no.
And when the ocean water's hotter, your air gets hotter. Your air gets hotter. It holds more of the moisture from the Gulf. And so it feels worse. But You know what? We need what's coming from the Gulf to get us what we need, which is water from the sky.
I mean, yes. Listen, I'm here for the science of it all, but also it's so hot. It's so muggy. It feels like I have on a wet blanket.
Yep. Here's what I correlated to. Like, you're in a hurry, right? You got to get from A to B, but you didn't realize that favorite sweater you had needed to be washed. So you got to wash it last second, throw it in the dryer, but you got to go. It's not done drying, but it's hot from the dryer and it's still damp. You put that on. That's what it's like stepping outside in Central Texas for about the next 4 months.
Yeah. I try to be a 1 shower a day woman. Like, I believe that 2 showers and 3 showers a day is excessive. We running out of water in the world. Just funk it out and have 1 shower a day. But recently, I have been a part of the 2 showers a day person. And I'm like, who are you?
It's like when you step outside, especially if where you are is like cold, like well air conditioned, up to 60, like so good. Then you step outside, not only are you getting hit by the humidity and you feel like you need to shower, but because your skin's still kind of relatively cold from being inside, literally the moisture in the air condenses on your skin. That's why you instantly feel wet.
Oh, science, leave me alone.
So 2 shower a day team, I'm with you.
So tell us where we are weather-wise. As we go into summer, what kind of winter, spring did we have that has now gotten us to where we are now?
Well, let's go a little farther back. Let's talk about fall 2024.
Yes.
Summer into fall. Let's talk first about water. We got bailed out in the end of summer 2024. We had some unusual July rain that actually benefited our water supply. And then I think it was September as well that produced enough water to at least get us by. It didn't really help all that much. And then we got to the fall and it was among the driest ever in Austin history. I mean, fall is a rainy season for us and it just did not provide last fall. So the story has been and will continue to be water. Where is it? Where's it going? Are we going to get enough of it to maintain our quality of life and have enough cushion for the pushing, so to speak, all the way through the summer? In that department, we're doing okay. We still have such a long way to go. We've had a decent spring so far. It's come with its problems. We can talk about that big old supercell that ransacked Austin not too long ago.
Yeah.
But where we need rainfall in the hill country, it's finally started to trickle in because that water filters down into Lake Buchanan and Lake Travis. We use both of those flood storage reservoirs for our water supply, by and large, the big quantity of it. So we're still really hurting. At Lake Travis, we need 43 feet, I think, just to get to full elevation. It's like 30 feet just to get to average. Yeah, so that's like a 3-4 story tall building worth of water we need on that entire massive lake just to get us back to average or full. That's many, many, many billions of gallons of water that you can get in a very short period of time, but it takes a big flood to get you there. Last time we had that was in October of 2018. So we continue to use water. There's water restrictions in place. So far, Mother Nature's trying her best this spring to get us that water. But it's just such a staggering drought that we're in ever since the start of 2022. To put it in perspective, Austin usually gets about 36 inches of rain per year. Dating back to the start of 2022, we're missing almost a full year's worth of rain in that time frame. Yeah, and it's even worse in the hill country where we need the rain most to benefit our water supply. We're chipping away at it as of late, spring 2025 thus far, but we got a long way to go.
Yeah, so this explains where the bluebonnets were.
Oh yeah, they had a really bad season. They kind of flashed up modestly and then they died out pretty quick. Last year it was a different bluebonnet season, a big bloom, and the bluebonnets stuck around, and all the other wildflowers that we get along the highways, they were around for longer.
Yeah.
But the crop, so to speak, this year was so dehydrated that all they could do was bloom briefly, spit out their seeds, and then they were gone. It was like a flash in the pan.
So, okay, you mentioned it briefly, and I wanted to circle back. The big storm, the storms after Memorial Day. So, if I remember correctly, May is typically the time that we get weird rain. But this was crazy. I can't remember that kind of like hail and wind. I felt like we were in like a hurricane. I didn't know what was going on. What was different about this?
You were in the middle of it, huh?
I was.
East Austin, where were you?
East Austin.
Okay, yeah. That was the worst spot. You were in the thick of it, Nikki. And
it was wild.
So I was at home when that storm hit, and I'm up in North Austin. So I kind of got the starting blocks of that event, and then it just got worse through downtown Austin and East Austin. So there's a lot to unpack with that specific storm, and it was just one storm that did all of that. It started in Northwest Texas near Brownwood, like 100 miles away from us. It formed, made a turn towards the southeast, and never lost sight of rolling right into Austin. It was like probably 2 or 3 hours in advance. I was like, this is probably coming to Austin. And then 2 hours in advance, I was like, okay, this is coming to Austin. Y'all gotta get ready for potentially like a destructive storm. So what happened was it was producing a whole lot of hail, like 2-3 inches in diameter, baseball size in some spots. But when the storm rolled into Austin, it kind of transitioned. It still produced a lot of hail, but then it became a microburst event. Think of it like a tornado. It doesn't function in the same way. A tornado is rotating air, right? But a microburst can cause the same kind of damage as a tornado, but the damage functions a little bit differently because you have essentially all this rising air and eventually condensation. You get ice and rain up in the clouds, and then the storm wraps in some dry air and enhances what we call evaporative cooling, which means like, you sweat, your body sweats to cool itself off. Well, if there's evaporative cooling that happens in the atmosphere, the air gets colder. That means it gets heavier. And if it's up there, it's falling with gravity until it hits the surface and has nowhere else to go but to go out in all directions. So that is what happened on a pretty widespread scale. Multiple microbursts that crashed down from North Austin to downtown to East Austin. The highest wind gust was on the UT campus, 84 miles per hour. That was on top of the physics building.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And 77 mile per hour wind gust at the airport was, I think, the highest since the 1960s reported at the airport, 77 miles per hour. The baseline severe thunderstorm starts at 59 miles per hour. So you're getting up there in intensity when you're talking about 70, 80, 85 mile per hour winds. And that happened on, obviously the metropolitan area where everybody lives, where everyone was during the heart of the evening rush hour. It was one of the worst storms to hit the city of Austin of the last recent memory, call it the last couple of decades. There were 72,000 people without power at one point. Some of those power outages lasted for days. And really interestingly, and I still need to do a bigger, deeper dive on this, when you have rain bomb like that crashing down, the microburst, it's loaded with rain and hail. I mean, some of it accumulated to feet when it was washing down streets and had nowhere else to go. It just piled up and people were shoveling hail out of the streets in the middle of May. But there was one rainfall gauge in East Austin, probably very close to where you were during that storm, that picked up 2.68 inches of rain in 15 minutes. I start getting excited when I see a rainfall rate of a half inch for a 15-minute time frame. That was 2.68 inches. So if you were to extrapolate that and put it towards like an hourly rainfall rate, that's 10.7 inches per hour. When you're talking about rainfall rates, even the heaviest tropical, like middle of a hurricane rainfall rate is going to be 6 or 7 inches per hour. So not only did we have the wind, the lightning, the power outages, but that much rain, even in just a 15-minute storm, which is what a microburst is essentially, it's a 15-minute disaster that caused significant flooding. One person, unfortunately, was washed away and passed away, and there were other multiple flood rescues, high water rescues. And it was a 15-minute storm. But that was incredible. And
it was crazy.
I got a video from one of our viewers that showed the microburst, which is really rare to see, of literally, it looks like a bowling ball shaped like this, falling from the sky and then crashing out in all directions. It was one of the craziest time-lapse videos I've ever seen. There was home damage, there was power line damage, and it was terrible.
This is so validating because I kept being like, this was like a tornado. We were driving and it kind of started like spitting a little. And I was like, and both of us kept looking at the sky, my partner and I being like, the sky is greenish gray. What is going? Like we kept seeing this huge, like, I don't know, man.
Fun fact, whenever you see that kind of greenish hue in the clouds, usually indicative of hail being in the cloud.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So if you see green, that means there's some ice coming down somewhere in that storm. You just don't know how big it is until it's on top of you. My wife was on the way home from work, and she usually gives me a heads up, says, "Hey, I'm on my way home." She didn't give me that text. So when that storm was rolling in, I gave her a call just to make sure, thinking she was still at work. She was like, "Hey, I'm like about to exit." I'm like, pull over, find a spot. Like, go get under some sort of shelter, save your car, get into somewhere safe. And for about 15 minutes, she was hunkering down.
It was wild. So, okay, so we got all of that water. So did that do anything? No. It didn't do anything. No. There was no benefit for us, right?
No, there was not. If there's anything that hits the ground anywhere east of Lake Travis, it does no good for our water storage. It can help with drought. It can help with drought improvement.
Fair.
And we've seen some, but we're still in a drought. But if that rain doesn't hit in the watershed for the lakes to go into the creeks and streams and rivers that go into the lakes eventually, then it does us no good. So that storm was all bad, no good.
Hey y'all, it's Nikki. I have to tell you about Tecovas boots. I finally have a pair, and I don't know if y'all know this, but they're handmade, high quality, and stylish. And they're comfortable right outside of the box. Now, I know we buy everything online these days, but trust me, you have to get fitted for some boots at Tecovas. Now, whether you're like me, a newbie to boots, or you have a closet full of them, the folks at Tecovas will help you find your next favorite pair. So, grab a friend, head on over to the Tecovas flagship on South Congress or their store at the Domain. Plus, good news, they just opened a store in Georgetown at 709 Main Street for those of you that live just a little further north. With 3 locations in town, you have no excuses. So, that's tecovas.com, Tecovas.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Now, if we're looking ahead through the summer, we know that we're in this drought. We know that, of course, water is wet. It's hot. We're in a drought. We're in Texas. So we're expecting to break any kind of records this year?
We still have a little bit of spring left, and whatever happens in the rest of June will either make or break how terrible it is here in the summer months. Because if you get more moisture in the soil, that can serve as a buffer to kind of soak up some of the sun's energy and keep temperatures from soaring really fast like they have the last few summers. So the more rain we get now, the better off we'll be in the temperature department this summer. And of course, in our water storage issues as well. As far as what additional water we may get this summer, it's Texas. It's hot. It's dry. As long as there's a big dome of high pressure, the heat dome sitting on top of us, we ain't going to get nothing. And that is kind of the trend going forward. Last summer, I mentioned we kind of got lucky with some July and September rainfall that bailed us out of bigger water issues. That's because the heat dome was mobile. It was moving. It was bouncing around from west to east over the southern end of the United States. The trend for this coming summer is for the dome to be less mobile. It's going to be kind of, when it sets up, it's going to be a little bit more stubborn. We're not going to be able to kick it out of here like we did last summer. So the question is, how stubborn is the dome? How hot is it going to be underneath it? And will it ever wobble enough to open the door for something from the tropics? We're in a pickle right now where we're hoping for maybe a tropical something to help us out.
Oh, no, that sounds bad.
You don't want a hurricane to run in the Texas coast. We had Beryl last year, which was terrible for Southeast Texas, and we got no rain out of it.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
We kept expecting and hoping and kind of like bracing ourselves, and then it never came.
Yeah, it made a little turn closer to the last minute. What we need is for a friendly, nice, gentle tropical storm to hit the Texas coast. And more importantly, after it hits the coast, to come into South or Southwest Texas and then just sit there and spin.
Okay.
For a while.
Okay.
So we can get a whole bunch of rain from it without the tornadoes and the destructive winds and all that. And if we can get that, it has to flood somewhere for the lakes to get the water we need to live our lives. So if it's going to flood and if it's going to happen this summer, it's got to come from a tropical storm, because otherwise it's just going to be hot. It's going to be dry. But if we get more rain in the spring, hopefully we're not crushing as many records on the thermometer as we have the last couple summers.
Okay, so we're hoping for a tiny little, sweet little, nice storm.
Yeah.
Nothing too big.
And I'll just add, in general, the hurricane season outlook is for a elevated season, slightly more activity. A big culprit for whether it will or won't be a busy season is the El Nino Southern Oscillation. We are currently in between La Nina, El Nino. So It makes it a little bit more challenging to know which way we're going to swing this summer, but it generally leads to a slightly above active hurricane season. Hopefully it helps us out in the rainfall department. It's better than La Nina. La Nina has been our arch nemesis since 2022. Ugh. That is why we've had the crazy winter storms. That's why we've had crazy drought, crazy hot summers. El Nino would be preferred. That's not going to happen this summer.
Dang. Okay, so this year, lawmakers passed SB 7 approving $1 billion a year for water infrastructure and new water supplies over the next 20 years. And this funding is contingent, of course, on voters approving a constitutional amendment in November. So how significant is this for the future of water in Texas?
We need something. I'm glad there is something that's going to happen. What that something ends up looking like, we'll see. But we kind of need to start treating water in Texas as a very precious natural resource. The same way we do with oil and gas. We set up pipelines to get it moved from A to B, to get places that don't have oil, some oil, gas for homes, to places that, don't have gas they can pull out of the ground. We need to start doing that with water too. So I'm not fully up to date on the details of SB 7, but I know there are some words in there calling for, pipeline type deals for transporting water, desalination plants that, get some water out of the Gulf. That's a very energy intensive process. So then you'll have to kind of retool that side of things as well.
Yeah.
But anything we can do to help our water supply is great. But we also need to be really focused on what we're using our water on. 60 to 70% of our water supply. Do you know what it goes to, Nikki? It's stupid.
Watering lawns?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I was just being flip.
It's that stupid. You thought you were being flipped, but that's it.
60 to 70% of our water goes to watering lawns?
Yes, to keeping stuff green for vanity. It's the worst. It's terrible.
What is going on? We're spending our water on grass.
It's a tough number to stomach. It really is. It goes to individual homes watering their yard, but there's also golf courses in the mix, different municipalities that try to keep, city-owned stuff green. Like I see it all the time when I go to work in the morning, the sprinklers are running and I hate it because I don't care if the median on my stupid commute is green. I'd rather see it dead. I'd rather see the grass dead so that I know that there isn't water being wasted on it. And if it dies, then it will come back when Mother Nature provides the rain. So I am a staunch advocate of let your yard die, wear it with pride, and then let it come back when Mother Nature warrants. You think about how much water we would have in our lakes right now if we had 70% of it back. Right? We wouldn't be in the low lake level situation. We wouldn't have people trying to figure out where to put their boat because there's no access on Lake Travis right now because the water's so low. I will never water my yard. The only thing I water is my sacred orange tree. His mother died in the February 2021 winter storm. I found a seed. I planted him. He's growing. He's doing great. I'll water that tree because it's sentimental to me. The rest of the yard, I don't care about. It's mostly weeds anyway. Die. And then
die off.
It'll come back when the time is right.
Okay, so this is really funny. My next question was going to be, what do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of our area's water supply? And I think that's it. I don't even think I need to ask that question. The fact that we're using 60 to 70% of our water I want to say the F word so bad right now, to sprinkle on our lawns it infuriates me.
It is.
I totally thought you were going to say AI stuff or, you know what I mean? Like the keeping AI stuff going, whatever those things are called.
The data centers. Yeah.
The data centers. I thought it was going to be that, but it's for your lawn.
Yeah.
So that we can keep that. Infuriates
keeping
me.
Stuff green. That's most of it. Now, you mentioned AI data centers. That's certainly a growing segment of the local Central Texas industry. And that is a water consumer. Definitely is sucking up a lot of water.
In addition to letting it brown.
Yeah.
In our effort to help people be better Austinites and to not make me have a rage headache, what are 3 things people can do right now to reduce their water usage or be more energy efficient?
There's not a whole lot that can be done. There isn't an expectation that we're supposed to cut our showers short or we're supposed to use less water for cooking our food or bathing our kids, what have you. That amount of water is so much smaller in comparison to wherever else it goes, mainly to watering your yard. But if you do want to be hyperactive and hyper vigilant and hyper useful of your water, think about all the water that comes out of your shower while you're waiting it to heat up. Catch that, put it in a bucket and use it for something else. Stretch it to the max and get the most out of your water. If you can stand by and watch your yard get brown and not feel like you're losing a bunch of money on whatever landscaping you've put into it, that goes a long way.
Wow. I feel like the next time people are watering their lawn, like indiscriminately,
judge them.
Like just think like I could be drinking that. Yep. instead of drinking that water.
Give them the eyes as you drive by. What are you doing? You look at them. I don't want to shame people that water your yard, but
that's okay. You don't have to. I will. So, okay, now I want to ask if, in case there's someone that's listening that's like, well, if my yard is brown, then that ups my chances of wildfires. Maybe. What do you think about that?
In terms of wildfires, it's not your front or backyard that's going to set the neighborhood on fire or going to contribute to your own home possibly burning down in the event of a wildfire. It's the fires start mainly in places that are not manicured. Fire that starts there can easily grow in size because it's got fuels that are not cleared out by humans or the city workers or anyone. So namely like green belts and stuff, especially in the hill country, there's a lot of rural land that is unkempt, which is fine. That's just how the world works. But when all of that stuff is really dry, which it will be, especially by the end of the summer, if we don't get a lot of rainfall, then that's going to be the source of big wildfires, not so much the stuff that you have immediately around your house. But
yes,
a lot of folks that maybe are in a new development that kind of backs up to a wooded hill country area, those folks need to be more vigilant. But again, there's only so much they can do if they don't own the property, right?
Yeah. Okay, so now I have an irrational fear of rolling blackouts. I don't know why. And I guess fear is a strong word, but I'm like,
No, it's not fear, it's PTSD. We all went through it.
yeah, okay. So do you think our grid is going to hold through the summer? What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Big reason why is because of renewable energy. A
Oh.
couple things working hand in hand to help us out, and it has already proven itself in a couple really hot days so far this spring. Mind you, we've already hit 100 degrees twice in Austin. We did
Yeah.
that in May, which wasn't the earliest on record, but it was a top 5, I think, earliest ever. In a couple of days where the power grid was, setting records for the time of year for power demand. But what has helped us out and will help us out this summer is not only solar and wind generation, but that energy, at least when it's in excess, being stored in a growing bank of batteries that is now at the power grid's disposal. So
Oh.
there are now industrial scale batteries that are storing energy when it's being in a surplus, when the sun's up and the wind's blowing and we're not using that much, it's charging batteries. And then when you get to the evening time frame when the sun's setting and maybe the wind isn't blowing as much, but power demand is going up because people are at home washing their dishes, running the dryer, whole 9 yards, doing their normal evening routine, then those batteries start sending more power to the grid. And that's helped us out multiple times now. 2 summers ago, we were very close to an energy emergency, but batteries kicked on and kept us just out of the threshold of having to have rolling outages to
Oh, shit. Okay.
preserve stress on the grid. So Texas is ironically, knowing the climate and the politics here in Texas, one of the drivers of renewable energy in the United States, because we have it in such a surplus. All the sunshine, we have a
Yeah.
lot of wind.
Yeah.
So it would be stupid for us to not be capitalizing on that. And now that we're able to marriage that with battery storage and, stretch the daytime energy into the evening, it's a huge help. But as far as energy woes go in the summer, we're in really good shape, specifically because of batteries.
Oh, I love that. I think maybe you mentioned this to me the last time and I forgot. I think my anxiety
Yeah.
wiped
Yeah.
wiped it out of my brain.
Yeah, self-preservation is the enemy of information. Yeah, your brain's like, I don't care what he said. I just don't want to keep the lights on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're at bigger risk for power outages in a storm like we had, in the middle of May than we are for, I think, heat-related stuff this summer.
So, okay, I have kind of a dorky question to ask you
Oh,
before we
please.
finish
Sock it to me.
because I love dorky questions. The other thing that I'm obsessed with right now is how much we are using AI for across the board, but is AI affecting weather forecasting at all? Because I feel like, right, it's just everywhere right now.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to make a bigger intrusion into the forecasting world eventually. For many years, many years, decades now, we've had computer models that we use to help us get a better idea of what the weather's going to do, give it, hours, days, or a couple weeks in advance. Those models now have AI versions, offerings that how they work, I don't know. That's above my pay grade, but they're using some sort of machine learning algorithms to take what we already had and try to improve it, I suppose. I personally have not messed around with those too much because what we have now is pretty good.
Yeah.
And, maybe it gets better. But, we're still very much so in the early stages of AI infiltration into all things that we live and do. So we'll see. Hopefully it helps. But for now, I haven't really noticed anything just yet.
Okay.
I think the bigger impact to the weather industry have been the cuts to NOAA and the overall weather enterprise that have taken more meteorologists out of the government and have made the people still working in the National Weather Service working longer hours. Sometimes they're short staffed.
Oh, no.
So it's a little bit harder to not only get humans to forecast, they're having a harder time launching weather balloons in some locations, which is crucial data when
Yeah.
you're talking about trying to get computer models to give us a good idea of what to expect. Fewer weather balloon launches is not going to help anyone. And we'll see what these impacts have to the hurricane season ahead eventually.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the politics of it.
not doom and gloom, but also like, ooh.
Yeah, I think there are some great ways to save money, and there are some not great ways to save money. And that's probably not a great way to do it.
That's a really diplomatic way to say that.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. Is there anything else that you want to add or that you want listeners to like be on the lookout for that I didn't ask you about or we didn't discuss?
You were about to ask the question. You said I answered it. I can answer more of what do people not understand about water or weather in Central Texas?
Yes, let's get into that.
Something that's come up recently, people don't really understand how the lakes and dams and rivers all operate and why they do some of the things that they do. So, recently we've been adding some water to our lakes, especially Lake Buchanan, which sits at the top of the chain of Highland lakes. Lake Buchanan, Lake Travis are flood storage reservoirs. So that's where we take our water out to wash and do whatever with. Water the yard. Don't do that. So we need water to go in there. But then, people that pay attention to the LCRA and the water releases that go downstream, they're confused about why there's water being released from Lake Buchanan and Lake Travis, even when the water levels are already very low and dropping and we're in a drought. They don't understand why that water is being released. The way the Highland Lakes work is we have the two flood storage reservoirs, and in between both of those reservoirs are what are called pass-through lakes, which are kept within about a 1 foot margin year round. But here's the deal. If one of those pass-through lakes, Lake LBJ, Lake Marble Falls, Inks Lake, they all sit below Lake Buchanan. If someone or something takes water out of one of those lakes, or if evaporation happens, which happens every day, and sometimes a lot of evaporation happens, especially in the hot summer months, to keep the lake within that margin, that 1 foot margin, that water has to come from somewhere. It can only come from uphill. What's uphill? Lake Buchanan.
Yeah.
Water has to be released from our already low lakes in order to keep everything and everyone happy farther downstream.
Oh, man.
Same deal with Lake Travis. We've got Lake Austin beneath Lake Travis. And then there's Town Lake / Ladybird Lake, whatever you want to call it, beneath that. Well, the city can take water from those lakes. We pay for it. The city takes it. Where does that water get replenished from? Lake Travis. They have to release water downstream through hydroelectric operation at Mansfield Dam. What about the rest of the Colorado River that goes all the way down to Matagorda Bay? There's people that live along there. They need water. So again,
it all comes from up here?
It all comes from up here. Recently, I talked about how much water we're adding into Lake Buchanan. It was like 9 billion gallons in the first week of June. Awesome. And then there were people, saying, oh, they're going to release it. Don't worry. The LCRA will get rid of that water real quick. And I'm like, well, they have to.
They have to.
They have to. It's more than just you and I here in Austin taking this water that need this water. It's the entire lower Colorado River that goes all the way down to southeast Texas. Something that changed in the last drought, which was the early 2010s, late 2000s to early 2010s, is that the LCRA stopped sending as much water as they did downstream to agricultural customers in southeast Texas. A lot of rice farmers down there, other agricultural people and farmers that need extra water. So in 2011, the lake level, especially like all the way up to 2013, 2014, LCRA still was releasing water for those customers. But after that drought ended, they revised their plan. They now no longer do that if the drought is bad enough. So they haven't sent any water to those customers in at least the last few years. So a lot of people will still say, well, they're sending them down to the rice farmers. No, they're not. They haven't done that for years now. Well, why are they still releasing water? Well, because a lot of people need the water. We can't store it. We have to maintain those levels on the pass-through lakes because there are different communities along those pass-through lakes that take water and there's evaporation, the whole 9 yards. So yes, the LCRA will continue no matter what to release water from our lakes, no matter how low they are, as needed. at a bare minimum just to keep the pass-through lakes happy, in order to provide enough water for the city of Austin, for Williamson County, for all the surrounding cities. Everyone needs water. It's got to come from somewhere. So they're going to keep releasing it, even if the lakes are near depleted. It's just how it works.
Oh my gosh. We are asking a lot of our natural resources. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I did not know that it literally trickled down like that. I had no idea. That's wild.
It is the truest form of trickle-down waternomics.
Really? It's crazy, but it makes so much sense when you spell it out like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Avery, every time you're here, you teach me something new. I'm learning every time we have a conversation. I love it.
That's the goal. That's my whole job, is keeping people informed and getting some of the conspiracy theories out of the ether.
This has been awesome as usual. Everybody, please just let your yard brown, for the love of God.
Let it die. It will come back to life. It's not permanent. Let it die.
Please,
Save
just
the water.
let it die. All right, Avery, until next time when we can yell at constituents together about the water. Gently nudge them not to use so much water. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki. It was a pleasure.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Avery's social media in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.